Hi, I'm Grant Siegel from the Plain Dealer and Sun News. Welcome to a series of candidates debates. Tonight we're hosting a debate for Brook Park City Council Ward 1. All the candidates were invited, incumbent Tom Troyer and challengers Danny Colonna and Gregory Stem. Only Danny Colonna is here. We'll give him 1 minute to introduce himself and explain his background and why he's running. Then we'll ask him some questions, giving him 90 seconds to answer each. So Dan. Oh, was I on camera just now or not? Was that just warming up?
No, that was on camera.
Okay, but you're cutting in now to tell me this? Are we off camera now?
I'll cut it in post.
Okay.
So if you just want to start over.
Okay, I'll start over then.
Yeah, and you don't need anything with the time limit. So you could just say, we'll give him some time to introduce himself and then ask him some questions.
Okay.
All right.
Ready when you are. Hi, I'm Grant Siegel from the Plain Dealer and Sun News. Welcome to our series of candidates debates. Tonight we're doing Ward 1 in Brook Park City Council. All the candidates were invited, incumbent Tom Troyer and challengers Danny Colonna and Gregory Stem. Only Danny Colonna is here. We'll start with him introducing himself and talk about his background and his reasons for running, and then we'll ask him questions. So Danny, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Grant. As Grant said, my name is Danny Colonna. I'm a candidate for Ward 1 Council in the city of Brook Park, and I've lived in the city of Brook Park for all 43 years of my life. I have a son, Rocco, who's a year and a half, a daughter, Gianna, who's 6. I have a wife of 14 years, Danielle, and about 8 years ago, we built a house in Brook Park. I've lived there my whole life, but we made a decision that we were going to keep Brook Park as our home. I served on city council for 12 years. As a councilman at large. I took the opportunity to run for mayor about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it was an experience. Really got to learn a lot about our residents and the community, and so I've made the decision that I'd like to get back on city council. There's a lot of unfinished work that needs to be done to turn our city around, and it's something that I hold the community close to my heart. And right now I'm just not, what's going on in our community and especially in Ward 1 and the representation we have, it's not being fair to the residents what's going on. So, I've made the decision that it's time to make a change and time to move our city forward, and I have the experience and knowledge to make that happen.
Okay. My first question is going to be about the recent tax proposals. I'll rehash for the viewers that Mayor Tom Coyne proposed a tax hike of 0.5% in the income tax for roads and services. Council amended it to change it from a permanent tax to limit it to 5 years, and then the mayor vetoed it. So I want to ask you how you feel about both sides of that, the original proposal, the amendment, and the veto.
Yeah, the original proposal to have a permanent tax increase, do we need a tax increase? How long do we need a tax increase? I think a lot of that depends on what your vision is for economic development. I'm also a big person when it comes to performance management programs that streamline city government. I think those factors weigh in on exactly what you need to ask of the residents. At this point, I believe that looking back on the campaign for the permanent tax increase, I just don't think it was explained well enough to the residents to get them to go to the polls and to actually say, I'm willing to pay a little bit more in taxes to improve the community. I don't think they had an understanding exactly what the plan was for those dollars. I do believe that the 5-year plan that when it was proposed, I think was something that the residents were more appealing to. Did it have to be 5 years? I know the mayor vetoed it, and there's a little bit of discussion going on why he would veto it when you need those dollars there. He's been one that said we need a tax increase. I think very easily they could have sat down and said exactly how much money do you need and what's that translate in years. Maybe it was 8 years, maybe it was 10 years. I think you have a better opportunity to renew a tax than to get a permanent one passed. The hospitals do it, the arts and cultural levies that are on, a lot of other levies renew, and it's a lot easier to do that, and you maintain those dollars. And if the residents see improvements and they see good things happening in the community, they're going to improve that tax increase. I just think more discussion had to be, if it's not going to be 5 years or permanent, let's have a discussion on how many years it does have to be and how much money we have to ask for.
Each side can criticize the other for bringing it up too late for that sort of discussion, and also for not initiating that discussion. You know, council said, well, the mayor didn't come to us, and the mayor said, council didn't come to me. How do you feel about that? Should they have started it earlier? Was there some intention of failing all along?
You know, as you know, Grant, I ran for mayor, and you know, one of the thoughts that I threw out there from the beginning to some of the council members, and even some conversation with the mayor. Mayor Coyne was mayor previously. He was gone for 12 years. The process to get things done changes over 12 years. And I think what you needed to do is go through a year, assess what you're dealing with, possibly have an outside audit of the community, really get an understanding of the finances, possibly restructure some of the budgetary processes, and then have some discussion about it. I think there was a lack of communication between council and the mayor, and be honest with you, there's a little bit of lack of discussion with the residents as well. You know, you started shutting things down, talking about shutting things down, eliminating some services, and then asking for tax increases. I think you got the carriage ahead of the horse, and I think what you should have did is provide the services, but explaining to the residents that we are in a situation. Here's an audit. Here's what our financial situation is. We're going to continue in this direction. But just so you know, going into next year, the second year of my term, I'm going to have to go to council and ask for their help and possibly put on the ballot for a tax increase. And this is why we need it. This is how much we need, and this is what we're going to do with it. I think I just think there was a lack of communication between the two parties.
So going into next year, the city hasn't done some of those things you're recommending. Would you go ahead and try to put some kind of tax increase on the ballot next year, or would you do those sorts of things first, or what?
Well, I do believe that we have to have the discussion about tax increases. The majority of council members that I've heard speak, you know, they are in favor of putting tax increases on the ballot. You know, a question was asked to me a while back, do you see the city's problems being a revenue problem or a spending problem? And it's both, and you know, there's been some comments made that a 5-year tax increase, an 8-year tax increase is a Band-Aid. Any increase is going to be a Band-Aid unless you're going to address economic development, have some type of a plan. I'd like to see the mayor come to council with incentive packages for businesses, any type and size of business, so that we can address economic development, performance management, things of that sort. And then in that conversation, and while we're doing those things, within the first 6 months that I'm back in office as the Ward 1 councilman, I do think we need to be having also the discussion of a tax increase. And that has to involve council members, it has to involve the mayor, it has to involve the finance director, to really get an understanding of what is it? Is it a limited yearly 8, 5, whatever year tax increase? Is it a permanent one? And really get some information from the finance director as far as what kind of dollars that's going to bring in on top of how we're going to address economic development, streamlining city government. And we have to have the discussion with the residents, not when we decide to put on the ballot, but during the course of the time that we're having the discussion ourselves.
Well, I'm going to skip out of order on my questions and move ahead to economic development. They're saying that that there's been about $30 million invested in Brook Park Road in the last year or two, and there's some more things that aren't final yet that they're hoping for. So it seems like they're doing what they can, and they have some incentives. Sometimes they're very small things like money for demolition. Sometimes they're bigger incentives. So there are some of that's in place. What would you do to add that to that?
Well, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a comment that I give people all the time. You know, since I was a kid, I've gotten my hair cut at the same barber at Brook Shopping Center.
Recently, I see.
Yeah, and so, you know, as time has gone on up there, he's always asked me, Don Rudy, he has said, who's our economic development director? And I'm going to be honest with you, till our businesses know who our economic development director is, we're not scraping the surface. We might bring a company in and things of that sort, but the businesses that are there that we have to continue to help them be successful, we got to make sure that we're accessible to them and we're out there and we're talking to them, and they feel that they have a friend in City Hall that they can call on. You know, I know that bringing a big company to Brook Park, that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do, but the fact of the matter is when these companies talk to other companies, what do they have going on in Brook Park? What kind of administration do they have? What kind of mayor? What kind of economic development director? What kind of council members do they have? And when they say, hey, they're pretty active. They come in, they ask me how our rent is. They ask me, hey, how's the maintenance? How's the upkeep of your building? Things of that sort. That's a big selling point to get a business to come to your community. So I think being active in the community, plus we need to create incentive packages for communities as far as whether it be a tax break, whether it be some type of an abatement, whether it be, you know, if you're a tech company and we've identified through a master plan that we want our tech businesses be in a particular spot in the city, then we say, hey, if you'll even locate here, we can even offer you this much more. So I think that needs to happen. The problem is council hasn't been real active with economic development. They're limited, you know, because it is an administrative role. But I think that through working with the mayor, I know that we have our committee assignments. We probably need to develop a committee assignment of economic development for a council member, and be able to have a council member that's sitting across the table from an economic development director and let him know what we hear out in the community, what we hear the residents want, what we hear that the business owners and the employees of those businesses need to be successful in our community. That communication is going to be important moving forward.
Okay. Now, the council just voted last night to send dispatch services to Parma. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think we're in a position, and I've had some discussion with our some of our fire officials in the fire department. We've put ourselves in a position where we're almost forced into this one. Originally, we were going to team up with Olmsted Falls, which would have been probably the ideal situation for us. But we're in a situation now that, you know, our backs are up against the wall, and we've wasted time, and I think that we really don't have a choice with the situation that we're in. Is it the situation we need to be in? Do I agree with it? No, I don't. I don't agree with it. We should have been in the group with Olmsted Falls, and we should have found a way to make that happen, and we didn't. But that's the situation we're in, and I truly believe that we were just backed into a corner, and we had no choice but to do this.
Of course, you would have had to recuse yourself from a vote on Olmsted Falls as their recreation.
Absolutely.
As their recreation director.
Yes.
The plan about moving City Hall into the community center, how do you feel about that?
I have mixed feelings on that. You know, moving forward, you know, the mayor had a town hall meeting, gave us a whole layout of the structural issues that the community center has. All of our buildings are old. I can't say that there's a plan that's better than the other. Do you build one building over? Do you one at a time? You know, I think the mayor's thoughts have merit to them, but we really need to make sure and really need to sit down and look at what is our future recreational-wise. You know, are we moving it temporarily to build a new city hall? Those are questions that I would have for the mayor. I don't believe all the information is on the table right now to make that move. But if it is a move that's providing an opportunity to rebuild our municipal campus, then there's merit to doing that. But it does concern me a little bit. But I will say to the mayor that I will agree with him on that. If he's going to move City Hall to any facility, obviously the rec center, being the youngest of them, would be the place that you're gonna want to do that.
So I'd like to ask you about the incumbent's performance in your ward. You alluded to that in your introduction. I don't know, I'm not trying to encourage you to go negative, but talk about, you know, what he's done that you would do differently here.
Well, I think it's clear. He's made a clear choice to be against the mayor. In his first couple months, I believe that he was thinking rationally. I believe in his first couple of months, he might have been, he was doing a pretty good job. He was working with the mayor. I believe he was making decisions that were based on what the residents' needs were and what their wishes were. But I think over time, you know, it's okay to disagree. I've always said to people, I don't have to like you to work with you for a common cause. He has taken, in my opinion, an activist role, and there's, you know, it's not a bad thing to be an activist, but when you're serving on city council and you're representing the number of people that you're representing, you need to take your personal thoughts and you need to put them off to the side. There's been many times over 12 years that I voted on issues that I may not have agreed with, but the majority of my residents that I represented, that's what they wanted, and that's what was going to make their life a lot better. So, you know, the fact that he is taking a stance to be against the mayor, I know the mayor is not a popular person right now, but the fact of the matter is you need to work with him. He's the one that is running the city right now, and you got to do your best within reason to provide him the tools to implement his vision. And you know, and if you see something that isn't something that's best for the community, have the discussion. Don't just vote no. Also, you know, I don't agree with him with not suspending the rules on specific issues. That just holds up progress. I was at a meeting recently, and some items had first or second reading, and nobody had any questions. You put those on reading so that council members have the opportunity to ask questions, and the individuals that, including him, that want to continue to let these go through the process, they're not asking questions. And then, you know, just as an example, just last night at our council meeting, he voted no on the appropriations budget, which provided for funding for a project which is going on right now in the Leslie Sylvia Drive area, and he voted no on that appropriations budget, which provided funding for that project. And I think if you would have gave thought and understood, you vote yes on that, and then you can let the rest of council and the mayor know what you disagree about that appropriations budget. But, you know, that's a project in his own ward that is going on right now. And that just tells me that his train of thought is more of no to the mayor and not really taking a look and understanding the needs of his residents.
Now, as you mentioned, you ran against the mayor and finished second in a three-way race 2 years ago. So I'm going to ask you a little about the mayor's style, not so much his policies here, because we're taking those one at a time and other questions. But as you mentioned, Tom's a very strong-minded, outspoken guy with a sharp sense of humor. And how do you feel about that? Does he consult public and the public and the council enough? And does the council consult him enough? And do you feel that you know, how would you go about working with him?
You know, it's strange. Sometimes I look at it like a marriage. You know, sometimes you have to put your differences aside, and you got to communicate no matter how you feel about each other. You know, as an example, the five-year increase in taxes that Tony D'Amico had brought up, the mayor got upset, and instead of having discussion, decided to veto it. You know, what we need to do is be bigger people and say, you know what, hey, listen, I don't agree with that, but let's have some discussion. If you guys hold off and give me some time, I'd like to have some discussion about that topic. You know, he's like I said, he's been gone for 12 years. The process to get things done has changed a little bit. I do believe, after the last town hall meeting, I actually believe that he's understanding a little bit more. The residents have changed in our town over the 12 years. They're not the same residents. You know, I told the mayor when he was elected, I told him that, you know, when he was mayor before, they'd roll out the red carpet when you come walking down the street and you were their elected officials. Nowadays, they want to know what you're going to do for them. And they don't want to see you shutting things down and asking for tax increases. So, you know, and I think there's a common issue, too, between the mayor and residents, the mayor and the residents, and council and the residents, and that's a communication thing. Everyone's got to communicate as a whole. There are certain members that do communicate. The mayor will communicate on certain things. But, you know, when Mayor Coyne was in office previously, when I was a kid and I grew up in the city, it was an outstanding city to grow up in, you knew everything that was going on. Your council members, your mayor, they were always out there, whether it be at a park. You had the opportunity to ask them questions, you know, and I think we need to get back to that. Social media and the way we communicate these days, they're nice things, but face-to-face, you know, putting some information in someone's hand is a lot of the times going to trump those things. And I think that's, I think he's going through a learning process and how things have changed and communicate with the residents over the last 12 years.
How did you feel about the Rupel Road Fire Station? He closed it. Then the petition led him to reopen it, but the law director, who I should explain is independently elected, is challenging that. What would you do about that? And a somewhat related question of whether you would privatize EMS.
Yeah, you know, in regards to the Rupel Road Fire Station, you know, my opponents has criticized me that I didn't come out and take a stance on that. You know, I knew that the mayor was going to close that thing during the mayor's race. The current council, Ward 1 council member, Tom Troyer, asked me during the mayor's race if I had any intents of closing that station down. I said absolutely not. You know, when the decision was made to close that, and I was on council when we closed the 130th one, when Mayor Elliott closed that one, and that was a little bit different because we had the underpass put in. With the Rupel Road Fire Station, I do believe it needs to stay open back there until we determine exactly what we're going to do as far as centralizing a fire station. You know, the issue that I had when that whole issue was on the ballot, I was asked to come out and support the ballot initiative. And the problem that I had is the language wasn't for opening a fire station. The language was for minimum manning. And when I was on council, there were other ballot initiatives that tried to change the manning in the fire department. Those were put on the ballot. The residents defeated those soundly. It wasn't even close. This was the same initiative, but now you have a mayor that created a little bit of controversy. And I believe that you know, to an extent, you know, they kind of used the residents' fears to get this ballot language passed. I told individuals who were pushing the ballot initiative that I support 110% that station being open. The fact is, when I was on council and before I left, I sponsored and had passed legislation to renovate that station at the tone of $150,000. And my concern is where are those dollars? No one has addressed them. No one has said anything. And I think that if the current councilman would have came in and addressed those dollars, it'd be a very tough, a little bit different situation to shut down a station that you just renovated. So I think that you know, the station is needed back there. I did not agree with the ballot language. I would have definitely supported language that strictly was a, you know, you can't force the mayor to keep it open, but if we at least got out there to show him that this was something that all the residents in Brook Park believe that should stay open to keep our residents safe, I believe he would have kept it open. And I would have took a different road as far as working to keep that open by communicating with the mayor, and I do believe that I would have been able to, with the way I communicate with my colleagues and the mayor, we would have been able to keep that thing open without going through everything that our residents have gone through.
How do you feel about proposals to shrink council size and pay? Should council have settled those questions early enough to apply next year? They ended up missing a deadline so that it'll be the same pay and the same next year.
You know, that's been a topic. That was a topic a number of times when we were on when I was on council. You know, you have four ward councilmen, 3 at large. I was an at-large councilman. You have a council president. When you really take a look at other communities, we're really not that far off. I do believe that you can eliminate the council president at some point, and have the council president, you know, voted on amongst their peers. You know, a number of communities do that. Or you can eliminate a councilman at large. You know, the thought of having 5 at large or 6 at large, I don't agree with anything of that sort. I don't agree with changing the number of ward councilmen because of the makeup of our community. So I think what you have to do is take a look at the council president position. You know, I served as a council pro temp for 4 years, and it's important to have a good council president for the purpose of running meetings, keeping things streamlined, getting things done. But I think that you know, if you're going to take a look at the makeup of council, I think you have to take a look at either the council president position combined with one of the at-large positions. I think you need to keep the 4 at-large where they're at. But again, that's an ongoing discussion. As far as the pay of council, you know, that's another one that's pretty comparable to the other communities. When I was on council, I think you know, we changed, we put an ordinance in place because the council position had not been raised for over 20 years. So what we did is council made a decision to bring some legislation forward to tie any kind of increase that the position of city council got to the labor negotiations, and council can't get more, any elected official can't get more than 3%. The importance of the pay of council, and everyone's so quick to cut the pay, is if it's just like any position. If you cut pay of a position, the quality of the individuals that are going to apply for those jobs or run for those positions, you may not get the quality of person that you're looking for to fill those positions. So you need to make those positions, and let me tell you, it doesn't matter what you pay city council. You're not just serving on a Tuesday night at a council meeting. You're dealing with flood issues. You're in someone's basement helping them out, pull their furniture out of a flooded basement. You're at their house on a cold night when a snowplow has knocked a tree over. You've got a number of things that you're dealing with, and people think that council is a glamorous thing. You put your tie on, you put your suit on, you go to a meeting. It's pulling up your sleeves and getting dirty and helping residents out. And you want those positions to always be appealing. Right now the salary is right around $14,000 or $15,000. A lot of people think we make $50,000. So I think that cutting the pay, I'm definitely not for raising them, but if you're going to cut those pays, then you have to understand that you want quality people to run for those positions. So you need to make them appealing for individuals, so you have good quality people serving on city council and in the office of mayor and finance director and all of our elected positions.
The mayor briefly spoke about privatizing garbage collection, and he sort of backed off for now because council wasn't interested. How do you feel about that?
I'll tell you what. I don't think there was very good information provided to even have that discussion. Brook Park's a blue-collar town. When you start, I know a lot of communities privatize. I'm fine with collaborating and doing some things of that sort. But when you look at privatizing, especially in the city of Brook Park, when you're looking at trash or EMS, you want to keep your labor base strong. And with these items, are they the right thing to do? All I know is if you dive into them, you can't dive out. You're done. It'll cost more money to go back to how you were operating before than it'll cost diving into something of privatizing EMS or privatizing trash pickup. So, knowing what I've seen at council meetings and listening to the information so far that's been provided, which I don't think has been quite too much information, definitely not enough information to make a decision. My biggest concern is weakening our labor base is what's going to happen if we privatize. And right now, I have no indication that we should privatize. I think we need to keep our labor base strong, keep our people working, and we have great employees that do a job that the residents depend on.
How do you feel about the mayor's cuts in services to seniors, especially the free plowing and mowing? He's got a voucher plan he's working on now. How do you feel about that? Two
things on those. First, and I've said this to the mayor, I would never cut a service. You take a look at how much it costs to offer the service. If you got to raise the price, you raise the price. I question when you cut a service, especially if it's a service that's being used. If it's a service that not many are using anymore, that's part of restructuring, and maybe you take a look at, well, maybe there's another service we need to offer. But these senior services that Mayor Coyne actually created when he was mayor before, we maintained them. We raised them just a pinch while I was on council, the cost of them. And I don't disagree with them that, they are costly. We don't have the manpower to do them anymore. But you don't get rid of them. You take a look at what those costs are going to be, and you do what you can. Like I like what they're doing now with the voucher program. I think that should have been done from the beginning. Again, the carriage got ahead of the horse. You should have had this discussion about a voucher program before you got rid of the service. Then you would have kept things a little bit, even keel. Residents wouldn't have got so upset, and you might have seen a lot of other issues that address themselves once you approach things like this. I like the voucher program. I know that doing the driveways was, even when we had the employees down there, it wasn't an easy thing for them. Our residents are demanding residents. They want their services, and it was tough on them to get out to those driveways. I think with this voucher program, and you're going to have contractors out there doing the work, contractors are going to do they're going to do a pretty good job, plowing your driveway. So I think ultimately the product that they're going to get is going to be better. And depending on how the number of residents are that sign up for it, the voucher program may cover the entire cost. We just don't know because we don't know how many people are going to sign up for the program.
Okay, we talked a little about attracting business. Let's talk about what Brook Park can do to attract and keep residents.
Well, I said this last week at a meet and greet that a lot of that is on the back of myself. If Council at Large candidate Jeff Duke gets in, Ward 3 Councilman Eddie Orcutt, and one of my opponents, Greg Stem, a lot of that's fallen on our back because our age group, they're the disconnect. They're the ones that are not involved in our community like we were when we were growing up in the community, because we have a lot of new residents. We have a lot of new people, and those new people are our age group. So, we've got to get them. I like the idea we had half off on rec passes. We increased our membership, over 600 memberships. Those individuals who are a lot of them are new people, are going to see what the city has to offer, not just you come in there and working out, but the number of activities and the number of programs that we have, which will make them proud and probably get them more involved in the community, get their kids more involved in the community. But I think one of the biggest thing is we need to communicate with the residents through newsletters. Everyone loves websites and things of that sort. And again, social media, those are great things, and we need to utilize them. But the good old days, you had a newsletter. It was on your porch. You knew what was going on. You knew activities that were going on, events that were going on. We had elected officials having hot dog roasts at playgrounds, giving an opportunity for residents to see their councilman, ask them questions. What's going on with this issue? What's going on? Why isn't my street getting redone? And things of that sort. So we've got to be a lot more visible, a lot more active out in the community. I've coached football for 22 years, and I get that opportunity to connect with residents throughout the year because I coach young kids, because the parents have an opportunity to have access to me, and they ask me all kinds of questions. Why is this happening? Why isn't this happening? So that's part of that $15,000 that you make as a councilman, to get your tail out there and speak with these residents and make yourself accessible, not just on a phone, but face to face. And I think if we do that, we'll get the residents excited because we have a great town.
Do you think Brook Park can do more to exploit its advantages of location, with access to the highways and the airport and the rapid, with the stations just being redone? Do you think there's some hope for the future there?
I do. I do. Going back on economic development, one of the things that we've kind of missed the boat on is, I'm to blame even during the discussion right now with you is I'm putting a lot on the economic development development director's back. We got to work with our other communities, the surrounding communities, Middlebrook Heights, because a lot of the businesses and a lot of the things that happen in our town is a benefit for those surrounding communities.
Right.
At Middlebrook Heights, hey, they have some good things going on in their community. They're known for all the medical institutions they have, and that's a benefit to our community to have them. We've got to communicate with all the resources we have, like you said, with the new rapid station going in. We're close to the airport. Brook Park Road is going to continue to grow. That's going to be a great area. Eventually, hopefully, we address the Ford Motor Company property. We have the Aerospace Parkway. There's question that the Aerospace Parkway is wetlands, but there's land that we bought while I was on council that we can develop. So instead of just going in and just developing, let's work with our neighbors and let's talk to them and say, hey, how can we help each other? How can we collaborate to make sure that what we're bringing into our community, what we're bringing in economic development-wise, and what we're doing is going to be something that's going to benefit all parties. It used to be the days when I was growing up where Brook Park, everyone wanted to live there. Taxes were low, you had great services, you had great things for your kids and adults to do, great senior services. Now we got to lean on each other. And if we don't in this economy, those that don't lean on each other and collaborate a little bit, they're going to be left behind. So we have to start collaborating on that instance and talk to Middlebrook Heights, because we have a lot of resources that would benefit going on some ventures to create some economic development in our community. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to sum up by one more little pitch to the viewers about your stance on the issues and your goals for being on council. Well, and I appreciate you having me in, Grant. And I think the biggest thing for Brook Park is we need a group of council members and and we need elected officials in our community that are going to work together. We don't have that right now. I have a reputation of being able to bring people to the table. I've never had the attitude that I just need to get my 4 votes to get something done. I want everyone on it together. I want everyone to work together. And you know, currently right now, we just don't have that happening. We have individuals that are out there doing their own thing, and we need to bring back that working together environment, the same environment that we were able to accomplish in my 12 years on council. And we accomplished a lot in 12 years while I was on council. So, you know, I hope that the residents of Brook Park feel the same way. And if they do, I can tell you this, that in 2 years of my term on council, and we get individuals on council that are willing to work together, 2 years is going to be, we're going to be a little bit closer to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you. And thank you to the viewers for watching this video. It will appear on cleveland.com along with videos of other races in Brook Park and other communities. Early voting has begun. Please check out our articles as well. For if you haven't voted yet, check out our articles about the election. And as you know, the election day is November 3rd. Thank you.